In this video, I'll be continuing our C# background services course by adding logging to our .NET application using the excellent Serilog library. Welcome back to our channel. My name is Chris Roberts and this is Roberts Dev Talk. Now, Serilog is one of my favorite .NET libraries because it is just so powerful, but it's just really simple to configure. Serilog hooks into the existing .NET Core iLogger abstraction, so you don't need to make any changes to your code other than adding a few configuration lines in application startup. This means if you already have a large code base, you don't have to make lots of changes. All you need to do is change your app startup and add Serilog. Serilog also has the concept of syncs. Now, a sync is just essentially a target for your logs where you want to send them to, and you can stack multiple syncs. For example, you can write to a console, but also you can write to the file. You can send log messages to a message queue, to Slack webhooks, Microsoft Teams. You can even send an email, and it's all really simple to configure using a nice to use Fluent API. In this video, I'll be building on the application we've created over the past couple of videos in this series by adding Serilog and showing you how to write to console, to file, to configure different log event levels, use message template, and also how to configure the JSON formatter. Let's get started. Now, I've gone ahead and installed the packages serilog.syncs.console and serilog.syncs.file. Now, so I can hook Serilog into the .NET Core host and capture logs sent through the iLogger interface, I've also installed this serilog.extensions.hosting package. This package is specifically tailored for .NET Core console applications and workers like this. Configuration of Serilog for ASP.NET Core is very similar. We just need to install a slightly different package in this case, and that is the serilog.aspnet core package. Now, in my program.cs file, I'm going to add a new using statement using Serilog. I can now configure the static Serilog logger by adding inside my main method log.logger equals new logger configuration. I can now add my first sync, and that will be to the console. So I'll call the extension write to and then add console, and just use the default parameters for the console sync. Finally, I can call .createLogger to return my logger instance. Now, the log.logger is an iLogger interface, but it's different from the framework iLogger that's included with .NET Core. This is the Serilog iLogger, and so I can use Serilog to capture .NET Core iLogger calls. I just need to drop down to my host builder and add the extension method use Serilog. This method was included on the serilog.extensions.hosting package. Now that's it. Serilog is now set up with the minimum configuration that it needs, and it will now capture calls to the iLogger.NET Core interface and route them through Serilog instead. Now, it would also be nice to capture app lifecycle events that happen outside the host, for example, logging exceptions that happen during startup. And because we have a static logger here, we can now call our logger outside of the host. So first, let's wrap our host builder in a try catch block. Now we can log any exceptions that happen while setting up our host and application startup in our catch. So let's add our exception and replace throw with log.fatal. Pass in our exception and our message. We need to also make sure that when our application closes down, any log messages in our Serilog buffer are flushed out to the console and any other syncs that we have set up. So we'll add a finally block, and we'll call log.close and flush. So this finally block will be called whatever happens whether our application encounters an exception or not. Let's also add a couple of information messages so we can track the lifecycle of our application. So we'll add log.information, starting our service, and then finally log.information, exiting service. Now remember, we added the Serilog syncs file package. This allows us to also write not only to the console but to a file as well. Now, using Serilog's Fluent API on logger configuration, we can stack as many syncs as we want. So after write to console, let's add a second write to, and this time we'll call file. And the first parameter we'll pass into here is the name of our log file, and we'll just call it logs/log.txt. Now, there are a couple of optional parameters that we can also pass into our file sync. First of all, we can add a parameter restricted to minimum level. Now, this is the minimum event severity level that we want to log to file. So we're going to add the enum log event level and we'll restrict this to information. Now, information is not quite as chatty as verbose. Now, the available severity levels that we have access to are, in order, verbose, debug, information, warning, error, and fatal. Now, by restricting our file sync to the minimum level of information, that means we won't receive any debug or verbose messages in our file, but everything from information and upwards, that's information, warning, error, and fatal messages, will all be logged to file. Now, we also want to prevent our file from getting too big, because this will be a very chatty application with lots of events, so we can configure Serilog to roll the file at a certain point. So let's bring this down onto a new line, and then add a second parameter, rolling interval. Now we can use again the enum rolling interval dot, and we'll choose day, but notice we can also have it rolled on the hour, minute, month, or year. We can also roll the file on a file size trigger, so we can set a maximum file size we want the log file to reach before Serilog rolls it over into a new file. Now, an interesting point is that we can actually stack as many file syncs as we want. So say for example we want to only have a file that contains errors, we can stack another file sync. We can call this file and then logs errorlog.txt, and to just have Serilog write out errors and warnings into this file, we can set the minimum level to log event level dot warning. Now to test this, let's go over into our process order and write out a warning each time we run our job. Now if we run this code with run start debugging, we can see that our application is running, it's writing a warning out to the console, and our information message as well. Notice Serilog has also created a logs folder. We have our log file with all of our information and warning messages in it, but we also have an errorlog.txt which only contains warnings. Notice also that Serilog has named our log 2021-0517.txt, which is today, so tomorrow it would create a new log for the new day. Now with Serilog, we're not just restricted to outputting plain strings. There are times when we might want to log out complex types. We may think we'd need to build up a string builder, for example, or override the toString method on our types. But thankfully, Serilog provides support for message templates. And to test this out, let's create a new model and log some information out to the console. Now this is an order processing worker, so eventually we'll need some kind of order information model. So let's go over and create a new file, which is going to be our order model. So we'll create a new file and call it order info.cs. And we'll create a new class and we'll just add some basic order information. So we'll add a GUID. We'll add an item name and we'll add a quantity. Now inside our process order class, let's create a dummy order. Let's remove our job ID. Now instead of having to log out each property on our order info class or perhaps override the toString on our order info, we can use a message template and let Serilog take care of the serialization of our order info class for us. So let's add a new message, processing order, and then we'll use the following syntax. We'll open a set of curly braces and we'll say at order and then close the curly braces, and then as a parameter we'll pass in our order. Serilog will process this string, see the order template in the string, and then look for a parameter called order passed into the log information call. So let's run our code and see the output that Serilog gives us. As we can see, Serilog has taken care of writing all the property names and their values out to the console for us. All we had to do was use the message template syntax and pass the order into our log information call. If we look into our logs, the log file, we can see exactly the same information being printed out into our file as well. This is really useful, especially when debugging and developing applications, because we can see all the information about an object straight in our logs without having to write any kind of complicated string builders or overriding toString methods. Now Serilog also supports writing out not just text, but JSON formatted log messages as well. To configure this, let's head back to our program.cs file and make a small change to our write to file sync. We just need to add, as a first parameter, new JSON formatter, and then in our IntelliSense we need to add the namespace using serilog.formatting.json. We can run our code, Take a look at the output. We'll look at logs and notice that our log messages have been formatted as JSON objects. Now this video is really just scraping the surface of what Serilog can do. There are so many more configuration options that I just couldn't cover in one video. Let me know in the comments then if you'd like me to create another video or perhaps a series of videos that dive deeper into this subject. In the next video, I will be adding support for polling and Azure message queue for new order information. Subscribe if you'd like to see that and turn on the notification bell so you know when it's uploaded. If it's already been uploaded by the time you watch this, I will update the description below and put a link up here somewhere as well. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a like if you've enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time.